7:35. This is a open session public meeting, and I hope you understand that you're subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be. First order of business is
Minutes.
Right, the minutes.
So I emailed those around this afternoon because I couldn't remember whether I had emailed them around in January after the meeting.
Besides, it's probably better to see them right now on the day of.
Well, I did read them,
Okay.
so I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
Can you get a second on that?
Well, the second's either you or me, so.
Oh, well, then I'm gonna second that as long as we all understand the minutes.
yeah.
I didn't hear him.
Didn't
I
get
don't
a
Well,
second
they-
anything, I don't know.
they- as their guest, they don't have a,
They didn't get the email?
well, no, I didn't send it to them because they're not members yet, they're prospective members,
Oh,
so.
pardon me.
Wait.
Alright.
So, yeah, call.
Yeah, probably gonna second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, cool.
And then treasurer's report.
We finally looks like the fiscal year '24 books are gonna be closed.
Wow,
I
finally.
know, so I can update you that at the end of FY '24, we did spend all of our money. Where'd I put it? Sorry. I was able to justify everything that we did last year with the town account, totally clear. The other account, I don't know what to call that other account, the MCC account.
Yeah.
Is for FY '24.
What's MCC stand for?
Oh, sorry, Massachusetts Cultural, we have two accounts.
Okay.
We have the Berlin Cultural Council and we have the Massachusetts Cultural Council. And we
Okay.
put the BCC account is a line item on the warrant.
And we
that-
just passed it.
That we just passed. And we combine that with what we get from the state to award the grants. So this year it was what, about $7,200 total?
Yeah, I believe that was
Something
the
like
figure.
that. The problem we've run into was, there was a mess up with the tech, with the budgets and everything. So June had to go back and do an incredible amount of work to get things all fixed up. And she fixed up FY '24. And now she is starting with '25. So from our BCC money, that was, no Irish need apply,
Yeah.
and that one is paid out of that. The Link one will be paid out of that too, that we're gonna sign off on tonight. And then from our MCC money, the things that have been paid are, Gina Cranford with the sound infusion.
Yeah.
And the zombie survival workshop, that was paid for,
Yeah.
or that one's been paid. So,
Yeah, we have a little bit of financial gymnastics we have to do because the money we get from the state can be spent at any point in the year, whereas the money that we get from the town has to be spent before the end of the fiscal year, else it reverts back to the town. So we had,
What's the end of the fiscal year for Berlin?
that is June 30th.
Okay.
So normally what we do is with grants we know are gonna happen earlier in the year and there's not gonna be a problem, we try to pay that out of the money from the town, but every once in a while we run into problems, like in 2020 when COVID hit, a lot of things were asking for extensions and, depending on where the money came from, that tied our hands a bit. And more recently, one of the programs that we had last year was originally supposed to run the date that we had the special town meeting, and then they had to delay theirs, but that delayed it from June to July, so we had to have different money than what we planned to
we did the shuffle.
do that.
It's always interesting. So the only other thing I have to say about the money is that the only thing that I called the office today because it was showing no interest on our MCC account. So they haven't accounted for that yet. That's the next thing they're working on, are the credits that we got, and they were able to do all the subtractions. So we do have a little bit more money.
Yeah.
There's 1,100 still in the BCC account, and the MCC account is $5,525 at this point.
Okay.
I'll just double check that because you had my book, so.
Yeah.
I couldn't check it against my book. So hopefully the next time it'll be a more
Yeah.
Comprehensive report from me.
Yes. And
It's been
probably be the,
interesting.
and be the last one too, probably.
Can you and Chris sign this, and then
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
get the rest of the paperwork in for Link, but I better double check that this is
Yeah.
coming from,
This is for, the school one.
oh, I gotta do two of them, cause they're getting money from
Okay.
MCC too.
If that is the end of your report, I would move that we accept the treasurer's report.
I'm gonna second that, and, all in favor?
Aye.
Actually, I can just use this, I just write up top how much it's gonna be.
So, this was what I talked to you about the other day. So I put on our agenda,
Yes.
so when the town report came around, I was looking, and its membership information for us was basically last year's replicated, but with, instead of, so Chris joined in September of '23, so that when you join middle of the year, that gets noted especially. So apparently it had him joining in September of 2025, which hasn't happened yet. So I talked to Kristen, the town administrator, and then to Dee. So there was when the town report was getting compiled, some back and forth between their office and town clerks, and some stuff didn't get reported accurately, and so like one member who joined and has since left was completely not in that section, but it sounds like next year the person who's kind of been in charge of compiling the town report, Lori, I guess, has been Fairway, I think, has been involved in that heavily as part of a senior work-off thing, and she won't be doing it, so probably all of that work is going to just get shifted to Dee for future years. But she indicated that given the problem with having some inaccuracies there, that she would in future reach out to the boards to confirm who their members have been. So there is a plan in place so that doesn't happen again. I mean, it's nothing huge. It's not like I think anyone is reading the town report for, really need to know who is, or, who was what, but nevertheless, noticing that inaccuracy, I chased that down. So now's the part in the agenda where you can introduce yourselves to us, and we can introduce ourselves to you. So.
I'm Mickey Patterson. I live on Peach Hill Road. Born and raised in Berlin all my life. PhD, musician, nurse practitioner, almost retired.
I'm Valerie Clementi Crane, moved to Berlin almost a year ago now, Lancaster Road. Grew up in Stowe, Neshoba Regional High grad, and past, 20, 30 years lived in Hopkinton. I'm currently a professor at Quinsigamond Community College. I'm a psychologist, and I also have a small therapy practice as well. So, like yourself, trying to head into at least partial retirement in a year or so. And now being here, I'd like to get more involved in town events and become part of the community.
I was Girl Scout leader, Cub Scout leader, soccer,
Been there, done that.
junior choir, you name it.
Yep.
All my life,
Mhm.
so, getting back in.
Good stuff.
It's a pleasure to meet you, both of you.
Nice.
Bellas,
I
you
am
were-
Chris Christensen. I also live on Lancaster Road,
Okay.
over right near the edge of Clinton.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live right on the bridge of that. I just graduated, what, two years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago from Assabet. So I'm all the
Congratulations.
way over there as well.
Okay, and he's our chair.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I used to be chair, and so and now we're doing clerk, so I've been kind of preparing the agendas and the emails, so if there's any confusion, it is my fault.
Not to mention, I'm still learning the
Name?
ropes.
Yeah, so I'm MJ Stades. I live on Carter Street. I started off in town and then mostly lived in Hudson and moved back to town about 10 years ago. But my family had moved into town in the 60s. My late grandmother had been treasurer of the town very long ago and for a term, and my grandfather was one of the first EMT firefighters. So kind of getting involved in town stuff for me kind of, legacy thing. You too, you're both his mother and his late grandmother nonsense. So I joined the cultural council in 2018 and then took over as chair in 2020, and we're supposed to be limited to 2-3 year terms at a time, so I was supposed to be off, and then we didn't have enough members, and apparently, so we have to have a minimum of 5 members as far as the state is concerned, and after I went through the work of resigning since my term was up with the state, found that there's a safe harbor provision, and so I ended up rejoining that. So we can find one more person, I can take that year off that I'm supposed to have. But there's also the cultural council. The setup for that is one where they have kind of a tradition or precedent of former members being able to serve in an ex officio capacity, which generally not how ex officio is used as a term, but in any event, so whenever my year off is, I plan to stick around, just get away from voting and decision making, and try to fade into the background for a bit. But I'm also on community preservation committee.
I'm Deborah Rolfe. I live on Randall Road, so we're all in the hood together.
We're in the hood.
Yeah, I guess I'm the one far away from
You
you
are
all.
so far away from us.
Yeah.
Valerie, where are you on Lancaster?
61,
Which is
sort of about right.
Color house.
It's gray, blue door. It was a newer build. It was a new build.
Oh, is your husband Mark?
It is, Mark.
I know Mark, 'cause I walk on Lancaster Road all the time, and I see Mark in the
Yeah,
board
With either
with
2
the
or 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you know Mark.
All
Okay,
right.
great. Yep.
Cool.
That's us.
I'm glad to, now I know you.
And we're the
Yeah.
one that has all the Halloween
Excellent.
decorations at
Okay.
our house. So the first house on Peach Hill.
Yep, all right, cool.
So I am the treasurer and have been for 2 6-year terms with a year off, where my husband served so that I could do my official year off. And it is now time for me to also fade into the sunset, because I have to stop after another 6-year term. So yeah, I've been doing this a long time. The other thing I do in town is that I manage the community garden. So I've been retired about 12 years from teaching.
I'm in the Ladies Auxiliary, Legion Auxiliary.
Cool.
Which is, we were supposed to have a meeting today, but
Yeah.
it moved to Tuesdays. I'm like,
Okay.
you're gonna have the room now, 'cause we changed our meeting.
Yeah, well, I'd already changed our meeting then, though I didn't know that the ladies auxiliary still existed
It does.
until,
No,
you
I
know,
didn't
I'm
either.
looking at, you know, I came in to double check that no one else had like, you know, booked a room but hadn't scheduled a meeting. It's like, okay, well, what is that? And
We're gonna be in the Memorial Day, we're gonna have a parade next year.
okay.
So
Good.
our job is to try to support veterans, and we
Okay.
put the flowers on their graves and the flags, and we do all kinds of like poppy sales. If you see people selling poppies,
Yeah.
it goes to Veterans Inc. or Veterans Hospitals and whatever. We send cards out. We're trying to find all the veterans from Berlin, which is now 145, in case anybody. But yeah, that's what we do. Not
Okay.
a lot, but a little.
It's
Yeah.
a lot.
Every
I
little
do
bit matters.
The one in Northborough, the auxiliary. Or do you know about the food pantry, the Northborough food, we'll talk after the
Okay.
meeting, cause I know this is off subject, but I wanna talk to you about it then.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'm done.
Okay, so
Yeah.
put in for, so, you know, I emailed both of you long ago, but just kind of a rundown of what we do. Essentially, we exist mainly just to give,
Money
Okay.
away.
yeah, so,
It's a good gig.
so, you know, we will meet again sometime probably in August, you know, assuming you still want to do it, you'll be appointed by then, there'll be, you know, new term, you know, to decide, you know, council roles, stuff like that, and then we, each year need to update what we have for requirements for the grant, so, you know, what people see when they go on our page on the MCC site. It's pretty much each year we more or less keep it the same, you know, sometimes they're little tweaks, you know, particularly, you know, COVID having impacted the landscape of things a lot. We as a council try to emphasize having programs that are in person because with you know Asian community, you know, fewer people in Berlin are likely to want to go to Zoom than might in other communities. So that's kind of one thing that we try to do, and we try to emphasize things that are in Berlin itself, because again, you know, a lot of the seniors are not going to want to go to a program in Worcester or something. So we do support some things that happen outside town, often, you know, with lower percentage of what they ask for. I forgot. I'm also a Neshoba graduate, and one of the things we support is we've done grants for the Neshoba Symphonic Band. And I actually went to the thing they had
Cool.
a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I actually I have the booklet from
That's
the
cool.
event, but when I saw the stuff in the mailbox, I didn't actually go for the music. So the mascot recently changed in the
Mhm.
school, and so they to kind of celebrate and rebrand. They commissioned a new piece for the orchestra to book. So they had like a 3-day thing. So it was a kind of combination of musical performances and historical stuff. So they had a few talks on Friday night, including one by Tim Kastner, who was my AP US history teacher. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything Friday night, and I went to that. Rare that I actually make it to anything that we are putting grant money towards, but that's something where because it's out of town, we didn't give them as much money, but it is something that some of their members, or at least one, there are members of the orchestra that are from town and have spoken in favor of it, and other things like the Thurston Healing Gardens, we've supported, Fitchburg Art Museum, their craft fair, but mostly we try to encourage, things that, you know, are in town, but so, then from September 1st, around middle of October, the people who are applying for grants, they apply for them, and there's, you know, in the MCC's grant system, and after that all gets done, we look at those. So generally speaking, so we're up to, this past year, we had $7,200 in total. It keeps inching up a little bit. We've been saying,
We
well,
gained like $500, right?
1 year we did. Most years it's been like a little, like $100 more from the state, and we're usually, we just ask for the same amount from town, cause there's, in this climate, there's no getting more, and
No.
there was an unexpected challenge where one of the select board members was suggesting cutting it all together, so,
Yeah, that was something else.
I may have made an angry email about the
Wasn't
judgment
angry.
in that regard, but, well, the total amount of grant requests we get, you know, ranges from like 12,000 to 15,000, so, you know, we have, you know, some tough decisions to make in terms of what we can fund. Some things, you know, because they are not local, or because, you know, for whatever reason, there's some things that kind of are easier things for us to say, no, we just don't have the money for, but even for the grants we wanna support, that tends to be, you know, if we had the money to support all the grants we are supporting to their full amount, would be generally a couple $1,000s more than we have. So we have one meeting in the fall where we just do approvals, and because anyone who is not approved has a 2-week window where they are allowed to contest that, and we've never had anyone come back and actually try to fight that, but we wait to give out the money until after that period is done, because were we to ever reconsider one and decide we reconsidered one and then had all our money spent, so we have like one meeting in, say, November, where we just decide, you know, yes or no on all of those, and then tend to meet in December to divvy up the money for the yeses. So the meeting in November is generally our only particularly long meeting. That can, you know, go a couple of hours. The December one can be long, but sometimes it's short. I think we got through this past one and pretty quickly.
The meeting before that, though, was
So
like
Yeah.
do
3
they,
hours.
so that to apply, they have to apply within that September, October range? You
Yeah.
can't like apply in May or
Right.
June
Yeah.
or something? Okay.
Right, just
Gotcha.
during that range. There are other grant programs that the Mass Cultural Council runs that,
Mhm.
you know, do come in different periods, but the one we deal with is just that range. And,
Okay. And so the money that comes from Berlin also, they apply through that same
Yeah.
site?
yeah,
Gotcha.
so on their end, they're just applying for money. It's
Got
on
it.
our end that we
We figure
have
out.
to, but so after December, when we've divvied up the money, we tend to meet in January briefly, because one of the things we have to do in town is an inclusion for the town report. You know, every department writes their little thing, and
Sure.
so that is something that, you know, the council has to approve whatever it is. So that's generally kind of a short meeting where,
It's a
you
lot
know.
of fun to write those, though.
Yeah. So this was Chris's first year as chair, so I've been writing the reports the past few years, but that was something we teamed up on this past year. And then we have a meeting this point of year to, you know, try to, when we have new people, to introduce them to the process. And we also, every year, we have to do a community survey to gauge what kind of programs that people
I was
want.
gonna say, where are they? I know they were in this book, weren't they?
So, kind of to segue to the next point of business is, let's start,
So what
Yeah.
we did this year, we made a survey that we had,
If you'd like to take a
I
look.
sent out or delivered to every single group that was going to have a program,
Mm.
and asked them to please have them done at the program, because in the past, we've done like Survey Monkey and we only got like 10 responses.
No, it does that, yeah.
So now,
Yeah,
I have read all of them,
okay.
as they came in, I read
Well,
all
I
of them.
think there were more that came in.
Oh, are these
what-
the new ones?
There was sound immersion, I didn't, and
Yeah.
there was, what was the very first one? The,
yeah, I think
The
one
no
group of
Irish?
those
No
might
Irish
have
Native Blood.
came.
might have been a
So-
new one.
Having looked through them myself yesterday, I mean, every year when we look at them, they don't really tend to indicate any changes on what we want to do. You know, there are a variety of things that people want to see, and, you know, we always try to support a variety of programs. We try to
Sure.
use our limited funds to do, you know, a diverse range of types of programs and diverse range of programs, you know, for different age demographics, so there's not really much these things tell us. I did notice in this year, the responses I based on, you know, where they were, you know, filling them out and stuff, that some of the things they were talking about having, you know, seen or whatever are like, they, you know, their library programs that we weren't involved in that they're commenting on, or 19
That's okay.
Carter, so, yeah.
But you know what they like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly what those
that's
are.
what you're getting out of this. You
Yeah,
got a lot
yeah.
of over 50s and some families.
That's why we keep the spots nice and short.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Makes it
mainly concerned
Yeah.
too that they knew where this money was coming from, because we thought that was important, so
Yeah.
that it
Best
was-
way to do advertising is through a questionnaire. So, yeah, and putting it at the end saying, we from the cultural council wanna know, what did you like about this, what's your age, what would you like to see?
Yeah. So they're having, so yeah, I'm not sure that matters too much, that some things we may be getting credit for, you know, but I mean, you know, we're all kind of on the same team, you know,
Right,
between, you know,
yeah.
us and the library and Teen Carter, you know, some things overlap, some things don't. It was nice to see some of those responses too, were from the kids at one of the
Mhm.
programs.
Yeah, I saw a couple of them.
Zombie World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They
so,
love
so,
that.
That was really
So-
Do
nice.
you want me to
Got that
keep
there.
these in
Yeah.
this folder?
but,
So does, alright, I'm just gonna ask this, cause,
yeah.
researcher, do you want that in a data sheet that you can show? I mean, could do that in 15 minutes, like, age group, this many people of this age and this people, like,
I will happily bring
Come
these
on.
over to you.
Bring it.
Yeah.
but it
No,
it
that's
might be
awesome.
something you put in the report. We had
Yeah.
47 responses,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
this is the data
Right.
on the people, and this is what they wanted.
Yeah,
It sort of reflects why you're here and why you
yeah,
get support. I mean, for that council person,
Yeah. So, good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
like,
person who wants to get rid of the $1,500 that we got,
yeah,
this would be informative to them.
yeah,
Agreed.
Good,
yeah.
thank you.
Well,
That's awesome.
fortunately, there were a lot of things that were suggested as budget cuts, and it seemed most of them died pretty quickly. But there were a few weeks there that I was spending a lot of time on Zoom watching finance committee meetings going on for hours, just 'cause it's like, okay, you came after my budget, so
Right.
and one thing that did come up in that process, so so as part of the town's budget process, the different town departments are generally asked to come before the finance committee to justify their budget, but ours has been so small and perfunctory that they don't even schedule time for us. Like, I went one year just kind of for the heck of it to you know, just, but.
But this would be good data
yeah.
to throw in front
Oh,
of
yeah,
them.
no,
Like, hello, people like
yeah.
it.
Not to mention, on the actual town report, having that statistics would also bring a lot of eyes to it.
Exactly. So your report, even if no one ever reads it,
Yeah,
still gives you some numbers to
Yep.
support. hey, guess what, we had all, and nobody fills out, you only get 27% of respondents from a questionnaire at the most.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
And we still have a lot more programs coming in that
Yeah,
will bring us more data.
but I'll
just keep
tally
them
them
running.
for you, and
that's great.
That'd
can
be
just be a
amazing.
running, and
Yeah.
if they had a date on them, it would be really good for me, but I'm just gonna say, starting today,
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I mean, you know,
Well, I
when
can
we,
give you dates of programs.
well, I mean, some of those,
Mhm.
I think some of those are kind of jumbled together from different,
it's
Different
okay.
but-
For now, we can start off
Right.
with
yeah.
the history
have.
of whatever we have right this
Yeah.
minute,
Well,
which will be a
also,
stepping stone.
and when we give out more of those things, we can add a section for a date for them to put in,
When we do it next year.
yeah.
Great.
It, you know, it's been kind of a learning curve trying, it used to be too that we only had to do community surveys every 3 years, and at some point, it changed every year, and we didn't
Mhm.
quite notice exactly when that
What
happened.
constitutes community service?
The
No,
community,
survey.
community
Oh,
sur-
survey.
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
So yeah, we used to only do it like every 3 years, and
Mhm.
then it's like, oh, we have to do this every year, and we're just, you know, we ran into a problem, like you said, with Survey Monkey, and, you know, so we've been trying to tweak it a little each year, but I think we're all open to new ideas on how to better utilize that, but,
Speaking of new ideas or new perspectives, do you have any other questions about it? The council in general?
So in my mind, it's like, I don't know yet, cause I just
Of course.
took you wanna come see. Do we have a mission? Do we have a, standards or bylaws or anything that we follow? How do we decide who gets the money? Is it based, it sounds like, in my mind, I've already gleaned that if it's a Berlin run thing, okay. And if it's not necessarily so the older people can come see it, that's even better.
yeah.
We can do something that's community related into other towns that have Berlinites or whatever. So in my mind, I'm trying to like start to fill out, okay, what would bring something to the top of the pile to get a grant versus something that wouldn't? So the age group, the accessibility, the whatever, you know, who knows who's gonna ask for a grant for something, so we don't even know that.
It's
Yeah.
a combination, if I may.
Yeah, well, one of the things that jumps out is, so it's not so much whether something is Berlin run, but Berlin located, and one of the things that we require is that there is a sponsor in town for it, so if it's a performer or something, you've talked to the library, you've got,
Right.
so sometimes we have ones where clearly someone has just been able to send out grant requests everywhere, and they haven't done their due diligence to try to do anything with Berlin. It's like, okay, we can see that, you know, you're just kind of fishing for money, whereas, you know, things that, you know, so a lot of our grant requests have to do with the library. Some come through the library directly, but some are programs where the library is sponsoring it, so, you know, okay, we can see, you know, this is a program the library wanted, they're, you know, they've got a letter of support versus this one saying vaguely, well, I could do it at the you know, and it's like, okay, you don't have your ducks in a row, you know.
So are there like bylaws and written documents that we should be consulting?
Yes.
So within the grant system, where we have what we require of, and then there are rules that the MCC has that we follow. Certain
Okay.
things we can support, we can't support. So one thing that recently changed was there couldn't be, you know, grant requests couldn't include food as part of it. So if something had, you know, we need, you know, $300 for the food for this event, sorry, we couldn't. Now that's something that's changed, so that they're kind of, so the you know, system they have has, you know, kind of the guidelines that are, you know.
Gotcha.
So do we follow state guidelines, or do we have our own Berlin little, Takeoffs?
It's pretty,
okay,
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But it's, I would say mainly the hard rules mostly come from the state,
Mhm.
Makes sense.
whereas, you know, kind of prioritizing things is more, you know, our judgment and what we've given as guidelines, that there, you know, certain ways we do things are based on what the town kind of expects. So a lot of towns have taken to doing direct grants where they will give the money up front to people, and that is something that Berlin is too fiscally conservative to do. So,
Shocker.
so, you know, whether that would would be good as a system or not, it's something we know, you
We're
know,
not gonna get.
you know, the town is not gonna give us the money to give things up front, so that's something where, you know, kind of, you know, town guideline is, you know, directing what we do. But I think for the most part, you know,
But that's only for the BCC, not the MCC,
Well,
right?
well, it's still, that
It's
money
all
comes to
still-
the town,
yeah.
so.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
The two monies are different in when they can be spent and whether it comes back to us or it comes back to the town if it's not spent. But as far as, you know, procedures for, you know, giving out the money, it is,
I think our
It's
job is
just
to
town money.
spend it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
you wanna spend
MCC's
it
money
to
rolls
zero.
over
yeah,
if it isn't spent, but very rarely does somebody not complete a grant. I think in all the years I've been doing it, it's happened once that, that they couldn't pull it off. And the money came back, but then we had to re-grant it the
To somebody
following
else.
year. You put it
yeah,
back in.
so each year we are, you know, all the money we have we're spending. We've got, you know, some interest in administrative account, you know, so that gets used for, you know, for stamps and such, but we're not adding any like, so if we get, you know, 7,200 between the state and town, where our goal is to spend 7,200. And I will say that towns are also allowed to use is it up to 5 or 15%? A council itself can have their own program that they run. That's not something we've ever really,
Uh-oh.
Gotta run around.
yeah,
Somebody run around.
yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. It's not something we've, I think, ever seriously entertained doing, both because our mission has kind of been narrow, so we're not really geared towards something, to
Bigger.
do something like that, but also because when we get, you know, $15,000 in requests and we have $7,000 to give out and we really would like to have at least 9,000, it's like, there's nothing I wanna do as a program that I wanna take money away from all the, you know, so. It is something that is within the realm of what can be done, you know, some, you know, other councils that they, you know, they have, you know, they've got websites or Facebook, you know, there's more that can be done, but we kind of, you know, have been a fairly bare bones operation. So I remember a few months ago, they had someone on like Spectrum News 1, like that was from the Worcester Cultural Council, and I forget all of what they were talking about, things they were doing. It's like, gee, I wish, you know, we had, you know, that kind of money and opportunities, but.
So I guess what I'm wondering is what do Mickey and I have to do to like apply to be on the board, or is there some form or something
So
we
the
gotta fill
town
out?
has a volunteer form, and hold on.
Okay.
It's like on the
It's nice and easy to fill out, I remember doing it.
town webpage. So like on the town webpage, there's a forms and documents section,
Okay.
and from that there is a volunteer application form. So it
Got it.
looks like that.
Uh-huh.
And so basically, you know, it's
Check.
just, you know, some
Sure.
basic details and, okay, what you're applying for and, you know, stuff like that. And so what generally happens there is someone applies to be on, and then the town the administrative assistant for the town administrator will send an email to whatever board or something, hey, do you know,
Do you want this person on your
yeah.
volunteer squad?
So, one of the
Got it.
reasons why we have this meeting is so that when they come to us, we can say, hey, we've already met with them,
Got
we,
it.
we,
Bring
we
it.
want them. So we don't have any lag time and have to have another meeting to say, okay, you know, bring them, you know, this, you know, so, but, so generally in June, that is, so for whatever reason though, on the state level, we get appointed to 3-year terms. The town has kept just doing 1-year terms with the cultural council, which hopefully we can get away from, but basically, in June, they, you know, reappoint whoever's on it, and that's kind of when we try to get new people on if possible, so, you know, they would have, you know, one of their meetings next month, you know, they just go through the role, okay, who needs to be reappointed to things, and then, you know, I mean, if you wanna do it, but you don't get your application in, like, it doesn't have to
Not a
be
problem.
then, but, you know, that would just be a sense, they would, you know, receive your application, reach out to us, and we would just be, you know, we've already given the, we like you, boss, so we want people to.
We've already given you work to do.
But yeah, so that's basic, yeah, you know, so that's kind of, you know,
Okay.
basically, you know, you know,
Could you direct me to the website for the application that people have to fill in for,
yeah.
the
To get a
money
grant?
to get a grant? 'Cause it would be helpful to read the bylaws and stuff there.
There's
Yeah.
2 parts to it. There's one that is designated just for applicants, and then there's the other part of the MCC website that is for the boards.
Okay, cool.
That has all of the
Yep.
information. If you
Mhm.
can't get into it, I don't know if you can get into it if you don't have the password to get into it. The
Okay.
MCC site.
Yeah, so.
we
Because
might
it's
not be
2
able to get into
different-
that yet.
There's 2 different sites,
Okay.
but I might actually, it might be old, but you can at least get a feel for it. I might have an old, packet from
Oh,
when I took this over a while ago.
Yeah, so basically what, you know, you would apply, you know, get appointed, you know, during the summer, and then, you know, there'd be a meeting in August
It's only 9
where we,
years
you
old.
know, start getting
Oh,
ready
that's
for
nice
the
of you.
next cycle,
Okay.
and.
It's also nice for people who are in multiple
It's
different
an old
councils.
one, but
Are you sure you
because
don't
we
need
are
it?
very
It's
busy.
9
I
years
won't.
old.
Okay.
You don't have to
Things
give
don't
it back.
change that
My
fast.
other question is,
They don't
if
change
there's
that
like a
fast in the state.
in-person meeting, are you opposed to doing a Zoom if somebody's physically not able to make the meeting, or just catch them up?
I
Well-
believe we normally just catch them up
Okay.
afterwards.
Well, like if we know in advance, like, hey, you know, you're not gonna be local, or, you know, we can, you know.
We're
so
going to Jamaica or something really good
Yeah.
that we've spent a whole
Yeah.
year saving for.
Yeah,
Like
I
that?
mean,
You're not missing that.
it can be done by Zoom. We managed to do by Zoom all right, you know, when that was
COVID
our
was
only
here.
option. Once we were able to get back in person, we found it kind of easier for
Mhm.
discussing things, and, you know, to do it in person, but that's also just, you know, that's been kind of just the preference of people, so, you know, if you're on, you know, that's part of the discussion of, do we still wanna do in person, do we wanna have it by Zoom,
Then again,
do we wanna have it like, you know, the date and time has been based on what's, you know,
Everybody
worked
can
for people, and
Okay.
like, I work till 7:00, so that's why we had 7:30 meetings, I couldn't make it
if you're
earlier.
going on vacation to Jamaica, though, feel free to inform us.
Okay.
we'll do a Zoom
Send
meeting.
pictures.
Yeah.
First week in November, don't count me in.
All right.
Well, we probably wouldn't meet till like mid-November anyhow.
Okay.
I mean, also, you know.
I take my responsibilities very seriously, so I like upfront, all right, if you want me, I can dial in from Jamaica, but just know.
Yeah.
We've always been really flexible in scheduling our meetings around people's
Yeah.
schedules.
Okay.
and-
Yeah, we've,
But the retirement's got me so busy, but yeah.
I do more now in retirement than I ever did.
yeah, well, I remember in college, I would, you know, always kind of joke with my professor friends about how, you know, could actually, you know, when they're reaching comments, like, okay, now I can actually get things done.
So you say.
Yeah.
One
Well,
of
there's
the
always
other-
more to be done.
One of the other things when you apply is you have to do the harassment and conflict of interest thing.
Nurse, done
Yeah.
it a million times.
Yeah.
Corey.
So
Yeah.
you just know the answers.
I know the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Every year I have to take the child abuse thing
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Well, with us, it's just a conflict of interest law thing, which every time I do that, I just notice, okay, there's definitely some gaps in either how the law was written or how the training is written, because it's like, you know, okay, it's a conflict of interest if it's this relative, that relative, like, okay, one of the things I notice is like they'll have parents, they will have, you know, your wife's you know, so, but it doesn't have any grandparent or grandchild thing, and you could barely.
Or
you-
steppy.
It's like you could do that by just doing like, there are words you could use that just made it more general. It's like, okay, they haven't done that, and
The law changes very slowly.
yeah, but like, you know, there are people who are, you know, in town government who have grandchildren who are, you know, of age to be adults and apply, you know, that they're, you know, that is something that could be, and I think, you know, most people, you're not gonna be like, well, the laws said I couldn't do this for my son, but it didn't say it, so like, you know, most people aren't going to do that, but like, I always notice that as like a sort of, you know, red flag and how they
We
are.
see that as good moral character
Would you
in this
guys
town,
like
though,
a
so.
rundown of what we did grant this year?
I'd
Sure,
love to
that would-
hear
yeah,
this.
that'd
So
be
you know
cool.
the variation of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
We always support, we always make it a point to support a school program. If Tohoto applies,
Sure.
Berlin Elementary applies, we do our best to support them. That's always a given in our decision-making. So we did a link program this year where they took the 4th grade, I think it was, to the ballet to see
Nice.
Swan Lake.
Nice.
No Irish Need Apply was a lecture at the library. There was a St. Patty's music performance that happened, the zombie survival workshop, which I guess was very popular.
It looked fun. We were excited. It was really kind of a novel program compared to a lot of the things we got. So that was, I think, one that we were more enthusiastic to
Yeah, 'cause
support.
it was very different.
It's good though, cause you know, it brings in a lot of younger.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Social singing, which I guess is a group around different towns here. Harvey Leonard was tonight doing climate change. You talked spoke earlier about Neshoba Symphonic Band. There's a library program, a man who does cooperative games through storytelling.
Cool.
Electronic games, Up Games Day with all the technology stuff. We support the music series at
19 Carter.
19 Carter. I'm excited about this one, I hope I'm home. It's called Welcome to the Graveyard. And they research, the two women research people who are buried in
cool.
our graveyards and tell you about them
That's really
as
cool.
people. Tony Fouche, I don't know how you say his name, F-U-C-H-S, Fouche. He's who was he? He was with a band from the like 60s or
No,
something.
apparently with the Platters.
The Platters,
Oh.
and the senior citizens love him. They
Yeah,
have him
yeah.
back every year. The Virginia Thurston Healing Garden in Harvard, and then Gina, who did the sound immersion at 19 Carter. So that was our $7,200.
Nice.
And
Real
there's,
variety,
what,
interesting
2, 4,
variety
6,
of
8, 10,
opportunities,
12,
Yeah.
14. So it was 14 programs.
And it
really.
usually ranges to giving them each about $500. You know, some of them come down lower, or we have to come down lower. You know, ones like the school programs sometimes add up a bit closer to 1,000 or, 19 Carter, depending on
Who they
how
pay.
how much money we have each year, that kind of is one that we've, kind of had a wide, range on what, we've been able to, support them with. We lucked out, one, for 2021, there was a decrease in the number of people who applied because of COVID. So for 1 year, we actually had more money to give out than we had requests we were approving. And fortunately, because their budgets included, their total budget, not just what they were asking for, we were able to say, okay, well,
Okay,
you
yeah.
needed more money, we got a little more. That was fun. But, I mean, it's nice to be able to give money to these programs, I don't think, a lot of people necessarily give a lot of thought to, okay, how does these library programs get funded, or this or that, and, nice to be able to help do that. And I know I always had great fun in my years as chair of being able to sign all the award letters. Except when you decide to make, extra copies for our records, and I had to sign like
Too many.
three,
Copy,
like
copy while it's signed.
But that's, that's always kind of a treat. But any other questions at the moment?
Not for me, no.
Alright, perfect, so
So I
in
think,
case we can move on to the next meeting?
scheduling, or do we wanna try schedule next meeting, or do we wanna, I put it on the agenda, but I
I
didn't.
think it's a good idea to zoom in on when we think we can all be, with summer vacations and
Mhm.
everything, if
Right.
we
Okay.
can meet later in August, right before the grant,
Yeah,
cause the grant window opens September 1st.
Okay.
So that way we can
yeah, so,
regroup, talk about it. I think that's the day I walk out the door, isn't it?
Yeah.
September 1st.
yeah, and I figure, I imagine as far as you, and if there's someone that we would just get reappointed to fill in until, whenever.
We'll see what we can do.
But, so in August, anyone,
Could we, well, if the grant cycle starts, I'm just looking at the calendar here, could we do like that last week in August? Are people gonna be around? I mean, I know I'll be around, 'cause I'll
I
be.
know I'm heading to South Carolina, let me see. Later in the week.
August is completely open except the 23rd.
And I'm leaving on the 27th of August, I believe.
Indian Ranch, what am I
So do you
doing
wanna
at
do
Indian
that
Ranch?
the week before, if you're sticking to Thursdays, the 21st?
well, also, is sticking to Thursdays a good thing for you guys?
I can do Monday or Thursday easily. I can't do Tuesday and Wednesday easily, that's
Okay.
harder for me.
And Thursday works much better for me anyway.
Thursday's fine with me.
Thursday's fine with me, cause Legion's now, because we got Sue Lamy, whatever the hell her name is now, she can only come on Tuesdays. It's so, I'm like from my backwoods of, this is your name in my mind's eye forever, so you're Susan Lamy, whatever the hell your last name is. Even though she's been married for 25 years, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Still
still all
Susan
do
Lamy.
that, Mickey,
Yeah.
I think.
So we're, Ladies Auxiliary is now Tuesday-in-ish, cause we just signed her up for a lot of stuff.
okay.
Why, 'cause she changed her name?
No, her name has been changed for years.
I know.
But she didn't come to all the Thursday meetings because of something like choir practice or whatever it was. So we moved it from today to a couple of days ago. And she showed up and she hasn't been to any of our meetings for a really long time, like I haven't seen her in years. And I joined because I had to bring my mother here because she doesn't drive anymore, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll sign up, and it's all my generation, it's all us kids that were, all the kids of the people that used to run the Legion, so, now it's my generation and I love it, but we're like, okay, we're gonna do Tuesdays from now on.
So, August 21st,
Yeah,
What a great day.
yep,
7:30, timed out?
that's fine.
Okay.
August 21st, 7:30, geez, I'm gonna have to keep my bedtime late.
That's because MJ's just getting warmed up, he's up all night.
What do you do?
Well, I'm just a night, okay, yeah, I work at the general store, so I didn't
Oh.
mention that earlier, so, the general store closes at 7 o'clock, so I need, a little bit of time to, get the store closed up and get here, so 7 is, just a little too early for me to meet, but I'm a night owl, so like, when I start work in the afternoon, that's when I'm getting up.
Mhm.
Was this the last part of the agenda?
Yeah,
Please,
we
is
just
there
need the
anything-
motion to
Okay, I'm gonna
adjourn.
move that we adjourn so they shut off the
Okay.
recording.
Second,
I second it.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Keep saying.
And then we can talk.